You think you know history? You don't. I've got two tales from the past. One is absolute truth. A mind-bending fact so wild, it'll break your brain. The other, a calculated lie, woven into the facts, designed to deceive you. Don't look away. Don't even think about Google. Your job? Spot the trick. Which one is the ultimate deception? The answer changes everything. The first story begins now.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking into, well, just an incredible story from World War II, Operation Mincemeat.
It really is something else. So, set the scene. It's early 1943. The Allies, they've just secured North Africa,
Right.
and the next big move has to be Southern Europe. The obvious place, the really strategic spot, is Sicily. You know, right there off Italy's boot.
Exactly. But here's the rub, and the sources make this clear. The Germans knew Sicily was vital. They'd fortified it.
Massively.
So a direct assault, what later became Operation Husky, well, you're looking at potentially horrific losses.
Absolutely. So the question became, how do you attack the most logical target when your enemy is completely expecting
A
you?
huge strategic problem.
And this is where British naval intelligence, they devised something truly out there, Operation Mincemeat. Just wild.
Totally wild. So our mission today is to unpack this. How did a dead body and some fake papers manage to redirect German forces and actually change the course of a major invasion?
Well, the core idea, and it sounds like something from fiction, was basically this. Create a completely convincing fake British officer.
A dead one.
A dead one, yes. Plant false invasion plans on his body, and then somehow make sure the Germans found him and believed the documents.
All to make them look away from Sicily. Focus them somewhere else like Greece or Sardinia. It's macabre, isn't it? But brilliant strategy.
Oh, absolutely. And the level of detail they went into, it's fascinating. First, they had to source a body. Not just anybody, but one whose cause of death could plausibly look like drowning after a plane crash at sea.
Okay.
Then they built him an entire identity. Major William Martin, Royal Marines, a completely fabricated person.
And it wasn't just a name and rank. The sources talk about the sheer effort put into his pocket litter, as they call it.
Exactly. Things like love letters. They even created a fictional fiancée for him named Pam.
Love letters.
Yep. And ticket stubs from London theaters, a notice for an overdraft from his bank, keys, photos, just mundane, everyday stuff.
Why go to such, well, human lengths? Why not just the official documents?
That's the key insight, I think. It wasn't enough for the plans to seem real. The man, Major Martin, the fictional courier, he had to feel completely authentic. Those little personal details, the overdraft, the fiancé, they made him relatable, human. It made the whole package, including the crucial fake documents he was carrying, much, much more convincing to German intelligence. They prided themselves on detail, you see.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Make the man real, the documents become real by association. So they've got their Major Martin meticulously crafted. How do you deliver him? How do you get him found without raising suspicion?
Well, the delivery was just as clever. They chose the coast off Huelva in southern Spain.
Spain, but Spain was neutral.
Officially neutral, yes. But, and this was crucial, it was absolutely crawling with highly active German intelligence agents. Abwehr agents were everywhere.
I see. So not really neutral territory in practice.
Not for intelligence work, no. The calculation was the body would wash ashore, a local fisherman or official would find it, and given the location and the nature of the documents, well, those German agents would make sure the information got back to Berlin, probably thinking they'd stumbled onto a massive intelligence coup.
And that's actually what happened?
Pretty much exactly. On April 30th, 1943, they released the body from a British submarine, HMS Seraph. A fisherman found him. The Spanish authorities got involved.
And the papers.
And the papers, through a chain of events involving Spanish officials and those German agents, ended up being carefully opened, photographed, resealed, and the contents sent straight to the German High Command.
Wow. Just, wow. Audacity of it.
And connecting this back to the bigger picture, the gamble paid off more successfully than they could have possibly hoped. The Germans bought it. Completely.
They really believed the fake plans.
Hook, line, and sinker. They started redirecting significant military resources, troops, planes, even naval assets away from Sicily.
Where do they send them?
To Greece and Sardinia, the places mentioned in the fake documents found on Major Martin.
And the sources mentioned that Hitler himself was convinced, personally convinced, by these documents found on a corpse.
That's right. Think about the impact. A meticulously crafted lie, built around a dead body and some invented personal effects, persuaded the German leadership to weaken their defenses at the actual primary target.
Just as the Allies were gearing up for Operation Husky, the real invasion of Sicily.
Precisely. So, when Husky launched in July 1943, the Allied forces faced significantly less resistance than anticipated.
Fewer casualties, greater success. It really changed the immediate course of the invasion.
Absolutely. It significantly eased the Allied path into southern Europe. The success was remarkable.
It's just an incredible example of wartime ingenuity, isn't it? The sheer level of detail in creating Major Martin, the psychological calculation in choosing Huelva.
It really underscores the power of information, or perhaps disinformation, doesn't it? How carefully constructed falsehoods, delivered in the most unexpected way, can have massive, tangible effects on the real world.
The complexity of making it all look like a simple, tragic accident at sea. It's quite something.
It really is.
And it definitely leaves you thinking, how many other turning points in history might have hinged on equally bizarre, equally hidden acts of deception operating just beneath the surface that we might never even know about?
Okay, let's dive into these sources you sent about knocker-uppers. I mean, what a fascinating job.
It really was. Essential back then.
Right, industrial age, people needing to get to these awful shifts way before dawn, no iPhone alarms back then.
Exactly. And the sources really highlight the stakes. If you missed your shift, well, you could lose pay, even your job. Pretty serious stuff.
So these knocker-uppers weren't just a convenience, they were vital. A human solution for a big problem across Britain, Ireland.
Absolutely. A key part of the whole industrial machine, really.
And what really got me in the sources was this question. How did they wake up? The human alarm clocks themselves.
Ah, yes, the classic who wakes the waker problem. That's the core of it, isn't it?
It kind of puts our phone alarms in perspective. So that's what we're digging into today, how they work everyone else up and the really clever ways they solve their own wake-up problem.
Yeah, the methods for waking clients were quite varied, you know. The sources detail a few different approaches, not just one way of doing it.
Like the classic image, the long pole, that features heavily.
Oh yeah, the long pole. Often bamboo, light but sturdy. You needed skill, actually, to reach those upper windows and tap, tap, tap persistently.
You can almost hear it, can't you? That tapping in the dark.
Definitely. But it wasn't just poles. Sometimes, depending on the street or maybe the client, they'd use loud rattles.
Rattles, like noisy ones.
Yeah, really distinctive sounds designed to cut through the quiet. Or even whistles, quite piercing ones. Sometimes just shouting through an open window if needed.
Haha. Whatever worked, I guess. Targeted noise.
Exactly. Effective, reliable noise aimed right at the person who needed waking.
Okay, so that's waking the clients. Poles, rattles, shouting. Got it. But back to that main puzzle. How did the knocker-uppers themselves get up on time? You said it wasn't simple.
No, not at all. It was surprisingly complex, actually. The sources describe this really elaborate system, almost like a network.
A network.
Yeah, a layered system. You could maybe call it a recursive wake-up chain. Human chain.
A chain, like I wake you, you wake someone else.
Sort of, yes, but much more organized and on a bigger scale, and timed incredibly carefully. It wasn't just random. The whole thing started the night before.
The night before? How early?
Often, around 9 p.m., believe it or not.
9 p.m., but people weren't getting up for hours.
Right, this first step wasn't for the factory workers. This was to wake up the first group of knocker-uppers. The sources mention these key people, maybe called dawnward sentinels or something similar.
Dawnward sentinels sounds impressive.
Their job, starting late evening, was just to wake the next layer. Maybe, say, 10 or 20 other knocker-uppers each.
Okay, so the sentinels wake group 1. Then what?
Then, once that group was definitely awake, communication was obviously key, they would start their rounds, maybe around 10 or 11 p.m.
And they woke up more knocker-uppers.
Exactly. They'd wake the next layer in the chain, maybe another 10 each further down the line.
Wow, so this just cascaded down through the night, layer after layer.
Pretty much. A repeating process spreading through this human network. So by, 3, 4 a.m., the final lot of knocker-uppers were woken up by the layer above them.
Making sure they were ready to go out and wake their actual paying customers right on time.
Precisely. It's quite incredible, isn't it? The level of coordination, the trust involved, all human-powered.
A distributed system born purely out of need. Amazing.
It really shows you what people can do, the systems they can build, just using, people and organization. But like many jobs, it eventually faded out.
Yeah, technology catches up. So we went from tapping poles to this huge, intricate human chain. And then Cheap alarm clocks arrived.
That was the main thing. Early 20th century mass production made mechanical clocks affordable for ordinary working families.
So the need for the human alarm just disappeared.
It diminished rapidly, yeah. A quiet end for a really unique profession.
So recapping, we've looked at the pulls and rattles. We've uncovered this incredible multi-layered recursive wake-up chain starting at 9 p.m. and seen how affordable clocks eventually took over.
And if you think about the bigger picture, it's a fantastic example of human ingenuity, right?
Yeah.
Solving a problem with the tools available, which was basically just people and trust before technology offered an easier way. Simple needs can create really complex systems.
Absolutely. So a final thought perhaps for you listening. Think about your own day, your phone alarm, your digital calendar. How much do you rely on tech to manage time? It makes you wonder what crucial human-powered systems, things like community support maybe, or just neighbors helping neighbors, what are we potentially overlooking or even losing in our automated world today? Something to mull over.
Time to make your guess. One of those stories is true and one contains a trick. Before the big reveal, let me know in the comments which one you think is true and which one contains the trick. All right, time's up, Truth or Trick fans. Did you figure it out? The story that contained the trick in today's historical challenge was the knocker-uppers. To clarify, the knocker-uppers were absolutely real. They were a fascinating and essential part of industrial life, using their pulls and calls to wake people up for work. But the elaborate, multi-tiered system involving the dawnward sentinels starting at 9 p.m. with an ever-expanding chain of knocker-uppers waking an average of 10 others through the night? That was a complete and utter trick. While knocker-uppers certainly had to be reliable and found their own ways to wake up, such a system is mathematically absurd. If that chain truly ran as described, by 6 a.m. you'd need over 1 billion knocker-uppers just to wake up other knocker-uppers, let alone any factory workers. It simply couldn't have existed on that scale. And Operation Mincemeat, as wild and improbable as it sounds, that was 100% true. A brilliant and daring piece of espionage that fooled the highest ranks of the Nazi regime and truly changed the course of World War II. If you want to dive deeper into these incredible stories and verify the facts for yourself, you'll find source links for all our research right down in the video description. Thanks for playing Truth or Trick.